Alright, so I was of the opinion that this is all done and over with, but apparently not. So Tory Lanez has found himself back in the news after having requested a new trial. So, if you remember, he was found guilty of felony charges, including assault with a semi-auto. But since all of this all took place, he's been proving more and more that he's not the go-down silent type. There's a pretty interesting factor in this. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom of California, so he signed a bill somewhere in 2022 that you cannot use one's rap lyrics against them in a trial. Why? Is because those rap lyrics are supposed to just be an expression of the individual, but not necessarily a matter of life itself. So it's not telling a tale of history. Gavin Newsom just wants the lyrics to be seen as an artistic expression.
Who shot you?
So you'd ask the question, what in the world does this have to do with Tory Lanez rap lyrics? Well, apparently, from what Tory Lanez is saying, his lyrics were used against him in the trial. Now, anyone that knows about that procedure knows that this is not the first time this has happened. I mean, it happened to Young Thug the same way as well. This is, to quote an expression, a tale as old as time. So, Lanez actually released a recording in regards to some of the alleged injustices that he's been victim to. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to see if we can bring everyone up to speed in regards to this recording. I'm going to play the recording, then we're going to come back and then we're going to comment on it. Alright, so here we go.
I've been incarcerated for almost half the year over a gun that the DAs lied and said I shot. In 2021, they demanded I take a DNA test. I took that test with no pushback, delay, or question. Not only because I knew I never shot the gun, but mainly because I was 100% positive I never even touched this gun. In my trial, the verdict of guilty or innocent depended heavily on my DNA results. With the help of LA Crime Lab's DNA expert Randy Zepeda, DA Kathy Tarr, and Alex Bott completely manipulated my DNA results and lied to the world, the media, and most importantly, my jury, by stating my DNA on the gun was inconclusive. That was an absolute lie. They went on further to say, inconclusive means that he cannot be excluded from the gun. My new attorney, Jose Baez, hired one of the best DNA experts in the nation to carefully analyze the same DNA test the fair and correct way. The results came back exactly as I knew this whole time. My DNA is 100% excluded and 100% eliminated from the gun. In other words, it's physically and scientifically impossible for me to ever have touched or shot this gun. After the correct and careful analyzation of my DNA testing, not only did our expert find my DNA 100% excluded and non-existent on the gun, but what's worse was the invalid and illegal tactics the prosecution chose to attain the results used to convict me. Based on the fundamentals of my DNA test, the only possible way for the LA Crime Lab to come up with an inconclusive result would literally be to stop the testing before it finished or completed its final result, which would have and should have shown completely my full exclusion on the weapon. In other words, District Attorneys Kathy Tarr and Alex Bott lied to my jury with false, incorrect, and incomplete DNA results, violating my due process and my 14th Amendment rights. My faith, my prayers, and my highest hopes go to the Honorable Judge Hereford that on May 8th, he rules in favor of the United States Supreme Court law, returning me to my freedom, my family, and most importantly, the justice of a fair trial.
Alright, so the first thing that he mentions is he's been incarcerated for about a half a year now. Personally, I wouldn't even waited that long. Here's what immediately stands out. He said that the weapon that he used to shoot he didn't actually touch. Now that goes in direct contrast to everything that we've heard thus far. We've heard statements made, we've heard testimony, and there is the little situation of that phone call that he made to Kelsey.
It's going to be one of those. If anything, the only that's going to get this backlash is me. It's not going to be her. But no, I feel you. Alright, it is what it is. Regardless if I get out of here today or not, bro, I just want to let y'all know, bro. I'm sorry, bro. Like, I never did that shit if I wasn't that drunk, bro. Like, you feel me?
Yeah. You have 1 minute remaining for this call.
But from what he's saying now, and his law team is saying, is that the DNA evidence is actually foul. There's no way that he even had his hands on any kind of a weapon altogether. So here's the quote. He should have been excluded as a contributor in this specific case, Baez said. Prosecutors basically used and argued multiple times in this trial that he could not say his DNA was not on the gun. In fact, that's not true. His DNA was not on the gun. They didn't have a profile. He wasn't even considered a minor contributor. And any random African American person from the community could be a more likely contributor than Tory Lanez. That is wild. If you remember that the initial claim was that Megan was claiming that Torey had fired some shots at her feet. Now, if you remember, Jose Baez, I might have just butchered that name, but whatever. He had made the claim that Megan couldn't keep her story straight. He had also stated that she had given differing accounts, one stating that she had been shot, the other stating that she had also stepped on glass. So in terms of getting this new trial, he's claiming they messed with the DNA, that his DNA is nowhere to be found on this weapon, and on top of that though, they hid evidence as well, much like what you heard in the recording. And by the way, if you couldn't pick up on it, it goes without saying, but obviously what he's stating on the phone is a letter that was scripted by his lawyer. And if you heard correctly, he also makes the claim that the reason why he even bothered taking the DNA test, like I had mentioned earlier, was because he was 100% positive that he not only didn't shoot the gun, he never even touched the gun, which now begs the question, if he didn't do it, what really happened? If you remember, he mentioned something in that same recording that the DNA on the gun was inconclusive, as the prosecutors had stated. Now, they also ruled that inconclusive could mean that it is or it isn't his DNA. They just can't tell. Whereas Torey was actually stating that after hiring, as he puts it, one of the best DNA teams, it came back as exclusive, so his DNA is nowhere to be found on this. Listen, I'm going to pay a lot more attention to this case because just for interest's sake, I'm actually really curious as to see if and how he receives a new trial. On top of which, though, he did also make another claim. And hear this, that until my court date, I'll be posting the outrageous and disgusting injustices used against me by the prosecution to get the conviction they so desperately wanted, despite the evidence they knew existed. So, this means that, as far as I know, how I read this, he's going to be releasing more recordings on the ins and outs of this trial. So, hey, I'm here for it. Let's go. Let's let the madness happen. But if I have anything else, I'll keep you guys posted, and I will see you again for the next one. Let me know what you think as well. Be easy.